Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. It always helps to press the mic button when you get started on your podcast. Just a note to those out there looking to record a podcast, always remember to lock that microphone. You are on Personal Pension Radio. Yes, I am the income engineer. My name's Kraig Strom. Glad to be here with you, broadcasting from the Personal Pension Radio Workshop studio here in now warm, sunny Southern California. Winter's over. It's now nearly 90 degrees, and we're just barely, getting into March. So that's Southern California for you. If you haven't already checked out personalpensionradio.com, check it out. I do my best to keep back episodes, transcripts, and information there. You can also contact me through personalpensionradio.com, and you can also get me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great way to find me, so you can go to Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, Strom, S-T-R-O-M. Find me there on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you there. You can also, like I said, get me on Personal Pension Radio. Now, what is Personal Pension Radio all about? Always a reminder. Retirement income is the conversation that Wall Street forgot. It's like the long-lost, forgotten land of retirement planning, and that's the income conversation. The Wall Street education machine spends billions and billions of dollars educating financial advisors, young ones like I used to be, on what to do and what to say and what to teach you. And unfortunately, they spend very, very little time teaching financial advisors and the general public about retirement income. This podcast, my message, I am all about optimizing retirement income. That exit, sell your business someday, retire from your profession. Ask the question, how much income can I have? How much income will you be able to enjoy to maintain your lifestyle? And here's the key. Investments, not the solution to maximum retirement income. Life insurance, not the solution to maximum retirement income. 401k, real estate, nope, not the solution to maximum retirement income. I just heard this on the radio today. Someone said basically the solution to retirement income, and it was annuities. Annuities are not the solution to maximum retirement income. Roth IRAs, none of these things by themselves will help you achieve maximum optimized retirement income. You have to have an integrated approach that balances the best of these things. For example, the best of life insurance and investments, annuities, real estate. There's a variety of ways, many ways, that these things can all be balanced and integrated together to create an optimized income. So this came up recently, actually just this week. Someone asked me in a public meeting I was in, they asked me, what did you mean when you said the Monte Carlo simulation and the 4% rule? Well, I realized at that moment that I had actually forgotten to give some details on that recently in my podcast. So I'm going to do that today, I promise. But what this podcast is about the conversation that most financial advisors are not having with you, the general public, that you're not having with your financial advisor. So I challenge you, go to your financial advisor. If you don't have one, ask the question, ask yourself, what's my retirement income going to look like? And if you Google search retirement income calculators, I challenge you, go ahead and do it. Find yourself a retirement income calculator at Vanguard or Fidelity or Bankrate or any number of these websites and run your number through that system. But remember, those systems were generated out of the education that the Wall Street education machine provides. So when you run those numbers on those calculators, know that my goal, my mission, is to make sure that you don't have to look forward to those kinds of just going to say it, the pathetic retirement numbers. I mean, people think of $1 million as the big number, right? Well, if you could only live on 4% of your retirement number, that's not looking so exciting anymore, is it? Right? So let's make sure together, get this message out. Retirement income is not the same as retirement savings accumulation. Totally different set of rules. Totally different set of rules. And thanks to the death of private pensions, the devaluation of Social Security, inflation and increased taxes, and poor savings rates, America is in a huge retirement income crisis. My mission is to help you pack your bags correctly for both sides of the retirement journey. Both sides. The accumulation phase is only your journey up the hill. When you get to the top of the hill, it's time to start the descent. You've got to get back down safely. That's the income phase of your journey. And they have totally different economics. You've got to know that. I want to help you build and protect your wealth, your lifestyle today and generationally. That's my goal. You might tell I am quite passionate about this, very passionate about this. Now, before I forget, disclosure alert, I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I am a certified financial planner professional, which means that I worked my butt off to be qualified to give financial advice to people that I work with. That means that we're not working together. We're just talking on a podcast here. I'm just talking on a podcast. You're listening, right? So please don't act on advice that you hear on this show as if it was meant for you personally. And especially, goodness gracious, please do not act on things that you hear from financial entertainers on the radio or TV or podcasts. I'll talk about financial entertainers a bit more in this episode today. Please do yourself a favor. Meet with a qualified financial advisor. I would recommend, as you might expect, meet with a certified financial planner. Meet with someone who has really worked hard to get those credentials and continues to work hard to maintain their level of knowledge and experience. Now, let's jump in. First segment. As I mentioned, I'm going to cover this today because I haven't covered it in a while. Somebody heard me say this, financial entertainer, and they were asking me what I meant by that, so it reminded me I haven't really covered it in a while. So financial entertainer damage control is what I find myself doing often, quite a bit actually. And when you think about the financial world, the amount of information that is out there now, it used to be actually pretty simple. I mean, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have 24/7, 365-day news cycles and information. So the financial world has actually gotten a lot more complicated, not the economics of the financial world, but just the overwhelming amount of information. There's just so much information today. And as a result, more and more people are seeking advice because there's so much uncertainty out there in the world. We're still suffering through the after effects of the Great Recession, and people are still very nervous in many cases. You got so much information. So one of the problems, or the big problem that I find is, where do you get the advice and the knowledge? Well, a growing number, an increasing number of people, these quick fix junkies, I would say, is a good way to put it, have given rise to individuals I refer to as financial entertainers. Financial entertainers, and the big ones, the well-known ones, are people like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman are the most famous people who fall into this category. They have amassed large followings to their radio and TV shows, to their books, and to their web programs and programs at church and various other places. And I can't say they're financial advisors, right? Because they're not. They're not licensed financial advisors. They don't carry any licenses to practice. They have no government oversight whatsoever, okay? They're financial entertainers. Let me put it this way. Think about this, okay? Think about this. Go to a doctor. Let's say you're going to go to a doctor. You walk into the doctor's office, you're complaining of chest pains, like maybe a strained muscle or something, but you're sore, you're complaining of chest pains. And the doctor comes in and presses their cold stethoscope against your chest and your back and asks you to breathe deeply. This takes, 2, maybe 2 minutes, maybe a minute, right? But the doctor spends an extra 30 seconds pressing your tongue down and shining a light down your throat and making you say, ah. And after a full entire 3 minutes, if you're lucky, the doctor diagnoses you with heartburn and prescribes some antacid before you can say, are you sure about that? She says, you got to see the nurse, and the nurse comes in, finishes off, and the doctor leaves and goes to the next patient. So you got 2 to 3 minutes with the doctor, and you got heartburn, and you're sent home. The nurse gives you the prescription for antacid, and you're out of there. How would you feel about that diagnosis? How would your spouse or your family feel if you had something far more serious wrong with you and it reared its ugly head the next day, right? How would you feel about that? The idea of a doctor diagnosing you or misdiagnosing you in 3 minutes or less is ludicrous. Yet many people tune in to hear these financial entertainers give out, in some cases, potentially life-changing prescriptions with only cursory exams. You would never accept this when it comes to your health. Why would you risk potential financial problems by not getting a thorough exam from a licensed and qualified financial practitioner who spends an hour, oh my gosh, crazy idea, spends an hour with you, getting to know you, getting to know your specific situation? So my mission, in addition to fighting to get the message of retirement income out there, is financial entertainer damage control, is hopefully just one person at a time to just change the mindset of someone out there who is listening to a financial entertainer as if their message is gospel for them. Please don't do that. Please challenge this. Get a consultation with someone like myself or another qualified certified financial planner, someone who is working hard to have those qualifications to take care of your specific needs. All right, that's it. So I'll calm down a little bit, but maybe not. So this actually came from a friend of mine asked me this question. I talk about this stuff all the time. I'll be actually doing various meetings, and I just get into these conversations about retirement income, and I can't help it. And someone heard me say, well, the average return lie. That's the average return lie. That was just what I threw out there. I just threw that out in the middle of the conversation, and that person said, whoa, what do you mean average return lie? So I haven't covered this in a while, but so let me go through this, okay? So when is 12.5% rate of return not a 12.5% rate of return, right? Is it possible for a person to get a 12.5% return and end up with much less? All right, so let's go through this. Really, I'll have show notes on this, and even if I don't get them posted, you might want to request this. So go to my LinkedIn page, make sure that you get me there, or go to Personal Pension Radio and just email me that way. Definitely, you'll want to get a hold of this. So let's go through it. When is 12.5% not 12.5%? Okay, so here's the example. And we're going to say that we've got $100,000 in an account. Okay, we'll use easy math. The type of account right now does not matter. And we're going to use just a 4-year time period. Going to keep this super, super simple. So in the first year, we have a 50% return. Awesome, 50% return. In the second year, though, we have a 25% loss. In the third year, we go back up 50%. And then in the fourth year, we drop 25% again. So we had up 50, down 25, up 50, down 25. So when we look at these percentages and we add and subtract, right, that's what you do with your rates of return. We add and we subtract and we add and subtract and we divide by 4. Well, guess what? Up 50, down 25, up 50, down 25. The average rate of return is 12.5%, right? Simple math, 12.5%. Ha! But what happens when you actually use the balance in your account? What is your actual real rate of return? What's your real rate of return going to be? So let's start with our $100,000 starting balance. Okay? We have a 50% return and our account value jumps up to $150,000. But we have a 25% loss in the second year and the account value drops down to $112,500. Aha! But we have a 50% increase in the third year. The account value jumps up to $168,750. Okay. Whew. But what happened in the fourth year? We had a negative 25% again. Whoa, wait a minute. What do you think our account value went to? We went from 150 to 112 to 168, and a negative 25% hits us back down to $126,562. That doesn't seem like a 12.5% return. The actual rate of return, 6.07. 6.07. Wait just a minute, you're saying. Hold on a second. How can we have an average rate of return of 12.5 but an actual rate of return of 6.07, right? What's the problem? The problem with the half-truth of an average rate of return is that it does not work the same when you add real-world numbers to the calculation. Simply totaling up the annual rates of return and dividing by 4 yields a misleading number. Many financial entertainers, including the big dog himself, Dave Ramsey, they use average rates of return. Actually, a lot of financial advisors and certified financial planners, for that matter, use average rate of return all the time. But applying those percentages to real-world numbers, that yields a very different outcome. Challenge this. Do the math yourself. Run the numbers yourself. You see, the ups and downs, the actual rates of return, what you actually end up with over the course of 4 years, very different when you look at actual rate of return versus average rate of return. Now, for the whole truth, really, just to keep it all clear, you really need to look at all factors associated with investing. You have to look at investment plan fees, and you have to look at taxes, and you have to look at all of those things that are considered. But now, factors that you really should consider, right? Number one, most people do not put in $100,000 into an account all at one time and leave it there untouched for 20 years. This is where this average return lie comes from. The idea that someone all of a sudden has $100,000 or $1 million or $500,000 and we just leave it in there and we never touch it. Well, they don't. We invest systematically. We invest every 2 weeks or every month. We don't invest all at one shot. So real people do not put in the exact same amount of money for the entire period of time. So for this example, I kept things level so I don't hurt my brain trying to figure out the calculations, right? So I want you to really think about this. Average returns don't work. They just don't. They work if you want to consider an investment as a general idea. But what you really need to look at is you need to look at the real world. And the real world assumption is going to include things like capital gains taxes and dividend rates and investment fees and all of those various things that when you plug in the real numbers, and you invest once a month, once a year, your actual rate of return is considerably different than any average that's being quoted by a financial entertainer or by an investment company for that matter. So I would encourage you, please, ask for the real rate of return. When you are considering an investment, when you're considering working with a financial advisor or financial planner, ask about the real rate of return. What's the actual rate of return after fees and taxes and given systematic investments and so forth? That's critical. Really, really important that you ask those questions, okay? And finally, I want to make sure to answer this question that came up about the 4% rule and Monte Carlo simulations. So the 4% rule and Monte Carlo simulations are a conversation that you do not want to have when it comes time for your retirement income discussion. So let's talk about the 4% rule. And we're going to actually, you know what? Let's bring them both together because they really do connect to each other and they come up most of the time in the same conversation. So let's bring them together. I'm going to use an example. This is just one of many examples that actually happened where someone took my advice and went to see their financial advisor. They did not take advice from a financial entertainer. They actually went to see a financial advisor and they asked the question, hey, if I keep saving all this money in my 401k and my investment accounts, et cetera, how much income can I expect to have when I'm 65? Well, here's the answer that one person received, one of many, that their financial advisor said, well, okay, now, if you retire at age 65, and based on the projections, they did actually say this, and the average rates of return we expect from your investment accounts, you'll have X amount of dollars. Now, I'm going to use $1 million because it sounds very Austin Powers, very cool to say, and it's simple, easy math. $1 million, okay? So this financial advisors, they actually will say this, hey, based on the average rates of return and what we expect the market to do, you should have about $1 million when you get to age 65. And so then this person, this listener says, again, okay, now $1 million, how much income can my wife and I take from the $1 million that we have without running out of money? Because that's the whole idea. We don't want to die broke. We don't want to be poor, right? We don't want to run out of money. Well, the financial advisor actually said, let's just go ahead and run a Monte Carlo simulation. What's that? These folks asked. Now, these folks had actually heard from me before, so they actually knew this, but I will encourage you, if you visit with a financial advisor, you are testing the waters to determine whether or not that financial advisor is your best hope for maximum retirement income. So don't give them my information. You learn this stuff from me. Don't share it with them. Find out whether or not they know it. Find out whether or not they say the same things. Just listen and ask questions. So here's what happened. These folks, they knew this stuff from me. But sure enough, the financial advisor said, well, let's go ahead and use a Monte Carlo simulation. This is a retirement income analysis tool. And this listener said, well, what is that? And well, it's a computer program that runs many, many different simulations on retirement income based on investments and the probabilities of good years and bad years and how long you're going to live to determine what the chances are that you will have money through your retirement based on how much you're going to withdraw. Oh, okay, so let's run the numbers. So they enter the data, and this is a couple that were going to be at about 65, and the wife was going to be 63, so 2 years younger. And based on those numbers, age, and the $1 million we're using in this example, the financial advisor said, using the 4% rule is a good place for us to start. And of course, my listener already knew this, but they asked, what's the 4% rule? Well, the 4% rule is a general rule of thumb that if you start your retirement income withdrawal at 4%, the probabilities when you run the Monte Carlo simulation, the probabilities are high that you will not run out of money. Okay, so I want you to really listen to that. Did you hear anything that said guarantees or certainty or anything that really inspires confidence? No, you heard $1 million for one thing and 4%. That's $40,000 a year on $1 million account. What if you only have $500,000 in your investment account? Well, $20,000 a year, because the economics are the same. If you have a $2 million account, 4%. If you have a $5 million account, 4%. So the economics are the same if you have a 250 or a 500 or a million. So stop and think about that for a second. How depressing is that? $1 million in an account, and a financial advisor says, based on the 4% rule, you should have a 90% chance of success. Well, what does that mean, they say? Well, 90% chance that you will not outlive your money. So you're saying there's a 10% chance that we will outlive our money? Well, that is possible. Well, that's not good. Okay, so think about this, folks. 10% chance that you might outlive your money. Here's the thing. 10% chance. Would you ever get on a plane where the pilot announced that we have a 90% certainty that we will make it all the way from California to New York? Would you really get on that plane? I personally would not. So why would we take those same odds with our retirement plan, our income plan, right? So if 4% is going to give us a 10 to 12% chance that we might die broke, I guess what's the option? Well, the option that these folks heard was maybe you want to start your withdrawals in the 3 to 3.5% range because the wife is younger. Is there a good chance with a husband and a wife that one of them could live to be 95 nowadays? Yes, 30 years or more in retirement. So, in order to get closer to a 100% certainty that this couple would not run out of money, the first year income withdrawal would have to be closer to 3%. Wait just a minute. $30,000 a year on $1 million. What if you only had $500,000 projected? $15,000 a year? That's the way Wall Street has been doing retirement income discussions for like 30 years. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for that. So, this is where I want to tell you. My mission is to make sure that you do not have to retire on the 4% rule, that you do not have to retire on the Monte Carlo simulation discussion, that if you balance your assets correctly, if you work with someone who specializes in pulling the best out of all of these things, investments, life insurance, real estate, annuities, stocks, bonds, etc., whatever it is, you work with someone like myself who's dedicated to balancing those assets in the right order, in the right way, you will not have to retire on the 4% rule. But I'm here to tell you right now, if you have never looked into the 4% rule for yourself, if you've never heard the Monte Carlo simulation discussion from your financial advisor, go ask. But remember, don't coach your financial advisor. Go and ask your financial advisor for the retirement income discussion. Don't coach them. Don't give them this information. Don't teach them what the stuff that you know now. Let them come back and give you the retirement income discussion. And I'm telling you, if you don't like it, call me. I will help you change it. Absolutely. And if you've already had the retirement income conversation, or you've already run one of those online calculators and your heart sank when you looked at how low the retirement income number was, call me. Get in touch. I will help you change it. That is what I do. That is my passion. I can help you. And If you've looked at the number, I'll challenge some of you out there listening. If you looked at the number and you went, oh, 4%, oh, wow, that's a big income number. Here's my question to you. If you could have a 7% number instead of 4, if you could have an 8% number instead of 4, why wouldn't you go for the bigger number? I'm pretty darn sure that more is almost always better. Bigger is almost always better. Why wouldn't you go for more certainty and more, right? That's my mission. That's what I do. I am the income engineer. I hold that title for a reason because it's my passion. Now, that's going to wrap it up for today. The future belongs to those who take action. Please, dear goodness me, take action. What you just heard right now, most CPAs and most lawyers, most financial advisors do not understand what the 4% rule and the Monte Carlo simulation really mean. They just don't. They don't understand it. That's what they've been taught. That's all they know. I'm telling you, you have learned something that most CPAs, most financial advisors, definitely most attorneys, they don't know this stuff. So now it's up to you. It's time to take action. Get off that log. Take action. Get in touch with me soon. I'm looking forward to helping you. Talk to you again real soon. Thanks for listening to Personal Pension Radio. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.